Just exactly when my parents came to America, I do not know. I've had to do some figuring. And according to my mom's story to me about her arrival here, she told me that she really did not mean to stay in America forever. Her brother was here and asked her to come, so she did. Her mom had died, so she intended to stay only a few years, then return home to stay with her dad, my grandfather, whom I had never seen. Her maiden name was Agatha Penar. Well, she was here with her brother, Thomas, I believe his name was, in Lyndora, Pennsylvania, for just a short time, perhaps a year, because all of a sudden, to her surprise and sorrow too, he decided to return to Poland, leaving her behind all by herself. She had no other relatives here and was very lonely, although there were many, many people in the same predicament here. They all came to the new country where they visualized they would do well. Most of them had very little in material things, or money for that matter, but they didn't complain. However, many of them went back home with even small children who had been born here in America. Times were very simple everywhere, and no one made great demands of life. As far as I can make out, I think my mom arrived here around the turn of the century, 1900. Since I know she was here about 4 years before she was married to my father, and was married to him when she was 27, the arrival date points to 1900. When then, at that time, she must have been 23 years old. Her plans to return home never became real. For her dad died, passed away, and also she met her future husband, my dad. Of course, this decided her to stay here in the United States. Now it was forever. And since they fell in love and she knew the story of his desertion, it was impossible to return to Poland. My dad, George Fisher, Rybka in Polish, must have come to America at about the same time and had to wind his way to Lyndora, Pennsylvania from Maryland. At least in my mind, as I remember it, it was to that part of the United States to which the freighter brought him. Here I must say that only this location is on my part, only a conjecture. You must remember that I was only a little girl when I heard his stories. I know he did not land at Ellis Island because he came on a freighter. Now here in Lyndora, he worked on Pullman Railroad cars as a riveter. I had explained that in a much earlier discourse as the reason why he bought a farm on which to live. He and my mother met with other Polish people at Polish functions and became a twosome. He was not my mother's only beau, nor her first beau, but she chose him to be her partner for life. Within a few years, my parents, because of family feelings, enticed other members of their families to come to America. That is how and why the Penar family and the Fisher family, the Ripkas families, have enlarged in this country, USA of America. We have many relatives whom we don't know, and some we do know. Here in the Midwest, California, Pennsylvania, Connecticut, and even in New Jersey, perhaps all over the United States. They have multiplied, and we have no idea as to how many or who or where they are. Now, I mentioned that Pop worked for the Pullman Boxcar Company, but I didn't say what my mom did. Well, she worked in the Bessemer Hotel. In fact, we lived on the Bessemer Street. She often told me a story of her taking a chance of being fired from the hotel. She was keeping company with my dad, and they wanted to have a party with some friends. Since she had access to the kitchen, she decided to snitch a ham, which she did, and at an appointed hour in the evening, my dad waited outside by or near a certain window. She threw the ham out of the window, and he caught it, ran off with it to their destination, and the party was a big success. She said it was the talk of the entire group, but she never did that again. My mother. She was young once too, you know. Can you imagine? She earned all of perhaps $3 or $4 a week at that time.